Yeah, and but when you market in whatever books you can market, so but in the future you don't, they don't wonder what they're getting twice. And I couldn't find it.
Leave me alone!
That's what they call Virginia. Somebody took into my student photocopy it and signed it, and I put in a little ledge in front door so that we can take it to the in the house. I'm kind of big with I'm taking little pieces of script paper where I write notes.
Yeah.
What you move them away, and I thought it would take that to check and something.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Not to me.
Your what?
My piece is a little short.
Oh.
Oh, really?
I honestly, I've stopped practicing for the last month or so. I picked up other things. It seems like it's just spelling a little more time, but. So, did you ever want to get to Okay. You still taking lessons over the summer? Oh, shoot. You getting stuck on things? Sure. It's never fun practicing when you're stuck in the phase, and I always think, you know, where it's like it feels too hard, it's like, oh, I have to okay. Yeah. You'll get it, you'll get it. It takes a long time for it.
It's like, when I think I want to go on I-90 or do I want to go on 60?
You have to constantly shift your back and forth.
I do. So I can, you know.
I don't know if it was, no, but I will warn you that that song, I feel like is like at the edge of viability. You know, like, yep.
Yeah. I'm going to start my piece just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
finish it, and we'll rip it up. Or, you know, or I'll send you an email or something like that to let you know. But I don't think I will. I haven't done it, so. I suspect that's what it said.
No less.
Yes.
No less.
Okay, I have it on my phone.
Good morning, ladies. No, I don't want it. You can't make it. Well, time for a nap.
You want me back in this town? Sure.
Thank you, Carol. Welcome to All Souls Church. My name's Peter Holland. I'm coordinating the service this morning. And so whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been a member for a long time, welcome. Whatever faith you have known or not known, or whatever your heritage, welcome here. Whatever questions you hold, whatever truths you seek, whatever sorrows you've known, whatever joy has filled your heart, whoever you are and whoever you love, welcome. We're grateful that you are all here with us this morning, and our speaker will be Joe Kirby, who is a longtime Sioux Falls resident, businessman, banker, attorney, and accountant, who's taken an interest in local government, and he'll be talking about that interest to us later on. If there are any announcements in the congregation, please come forward and give us your announcement.
Good morning. My name is Sue Ann Lang, and this is to say a very big thank you to all those who helped prepare and serve the Banquet West on Thursday evening. We served over close to 150 individuals, and of that, 40 plus were children. We even had children who come by themselves. So, anytime you can spare an evening or a part of an afternoon to help out, it's always greatly appreciated. And they have something called the angels. And angels are individuals who are willing to be on call if, say, a group all of a sudden says, gee, we're sorry, but we can't come. And they have had times at Banquet West, at least, when there have been 2 individuals there who serve everybody a hot meal with graciousness and kindness and warmth. So, there's a shout out to Banquet West.
Okay.
And a great thank you.
Hi, my name is Christy, and I just wanted to announce that on August 1st, there is going to be the Women's Group. We're going to be meeting at the Upper Tuthill Park in Sioux Falls near the gazebo, and we just ask you to bring a lawn chair, blanket for seating. And if you have any questions, please reach out.
Hi, I'm Alan. Yeah, August is right around the corner, and the program team is going to be talking about September, and when we meet on Tuesday night, and we're looking for somebody to kind of host our circle discussion on Labor Day weekend. As you probably know, we have a abbreviated time together, just half an hour simple program that involves sitting in a circle and sharing not only joys and concerns, but also some topic. So it could be something about labor, or something about the new school year, or something about the end of meteorological summer, or whatever you'd like. So if somebody would like to host that discussion on September 3rd, let us know. Thank you.
I don't see any more announcements, so we'll begin with a prelude. I've invited Liz to light our chalice while I read these words of, I have to take on my glasses. Words that were penned by Doug Hammarskjöld, who was probably the first Director General of the United Nations, and he died tragically in an air crash, I think, in the Congo. Each morning we must hold out the chalice of our being to receive, to carry, and to give back. Our first song is number 287. It's called Faith of the Larger Liberty. And if you are willing and able, please stand and join in singing this song. Faith of the larger liberty, house of the light expanding, law of the church that is to be, all bondage notwithstanding. Faith of the free, by thee we live, by all are given, and shall give our loyalty commanding. Arrows of faith in every age, far-seeing self they mining, wrought in an increasing heritage, monarch and greed defying. Faith of the free, in thy dear name, the costly heritage we claim, their living and their dying. Faith of the people everywhere, whatever their oppression, of all that make the world more fair, living their faith's confession. Faith of the free, whatever our plight, thy law, thy liberty, thy light shall be their blessed possession. I think all our readings today are responsive readings, and the first one is number 584 in the hymn book, the title of which is A Network of Mutuality. Oh, okay. I'll start again. The reading is number 586, which is also responsive, and it's words that were drawn from Abraham Lincoln. I'll read the bold type, and it's the idea of democracy. In fact, our the service this today is dedicated to the principle, which is I think the fifth principle, the right to conscience and the use of the democratic process. It's written in your order of service. So I'll begin. As labor is the common burden of our race, so the efforts of some to shift their share of the burden onto the shoulders of others is the great durable curse of the race. This expresses my idea of democracy. Whatever differs from this, to the extent of the difference, is no democracy. our defense with prizes liberty as a heritage of all people in all lands everywhere. Destroy this spirit, and we have planted the seeds of despotism at our own doors. Why should there not be a patient confidence in the ultimate justice of the people? Is there any better or equal hope in the world? Let us have faith that right makes might, and have faith let us to the end dare to do our duty as we understand it. If there are any children present who would like to come forward and sit at, perhaps join us, sitting at the front. If not, the story I have today, it's billed as a story for all ages. And so I went and looked in our library and found a book that is was donated to the library by two former members of the church who got the author to sign the book, and Mary and Perry Patterson, you may remember, generously gave this book to our church. And I can see in my mind both Mary and Perry advocating for the ideas present in this particular book. And the title of the book is called Maybe Right, Maybe Wrong by Dan Barker. Could you use the mic? Yes, I'll sit down and do that. This is a story framed. Is it on? Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. This is a story of Andrea. She has a good mind and she's learning the difference between right and wrong, it says. Andrea never tries to hurt another person and feels sorry when accidents happen. There's a picture here of her with a little boy and who is on a bicycle. And he says, "Why don't you watch where you're going?" And she says, "Are you okay? I'm sorry I didn't see you. My house is just down the street. Can I get you a bandage for your knee?" And he says, "You're a stupid rider. I'm going to teach you a lesson." So Andrea never tries to hurt another person and feels sorry when accidents happen. When possible, she tries to stop the pain of others. "Are you sure you're okay? Is your bike broken?" she says. "Come on. Are you afraid to fight me?" he says. Andrea decides what is right or wrong by thinking about how her actions might hurt or help other human beings. She doesn't think fighting is a good idea or even a right idea. Fighting only causes more harm and makes the problem worse, not better. Usually the bravest and best thing to do is to walk away from a fight. And the little boy is shouting after, "Chicken, scaredy cat." And she's saying, fighting won't solve anything. And in order to get into this particular story, which is really about principles, and one of the things it says is that some people use rules to decide what's right or wrong. And there are obvious examples. Speed limit 55. Keep off the grass. No right turn on red. And so Rules are defined as a command that you are supposed to obey all the time. But Andrea thinks about other things as well. She thinks about principles to describe what's right or wrong. Principle is not a rule, it's an idea, not a command. A principle does not tell you what to do. A principle tells you how to think about what you do. It's not a good idea to fight, because fighting hurts people, she thinks. Rules are not supposed to be broken, but principles can be broken. A principle can be broken by a more important principle. Sometimes it's not easy to know what to do. And one day when Andrea's cat got hit by a car, Andrea had to make a tough decision. Because the vet told her, "I'm afraid that your cat is not going to be okay, Andrew. Fluffy won't live more than a day, and she's in a lot of pain." So the vet and Andrea discuss what to do. And the principle that Andrea has to debate is, I will always try not to kill or hurt a living thing, but when possible, I will try to stop a living thing from hurting. One principle, of course, says that you shouldn't take life, but another principle says that you should try to stop pain. They are both very good principles. But the only way Andrea can follow the second principle is to break the first principle. And the only way she can follow the first principle is to break the second principle. And so the question is, what would you do? And I was thinking that this morning, perhaps for those of us who are adult, we are going to be talking about the principle of the democratic process. And there are several principles that are on the back of the 7 principles that guide the Unitarian Church are on the back of our order of service. And I want to pick a few that seem to be relevant to what the adults are going to think about today. Another principle is respect the right of others. You don't have to love everyone, and you don't have to like everyone, and you don't have to respect everyone, but you should always try to respect the rights of others. And then another principle, the principle of trying to be fair with everybody. Fairness means giving everyone the same chance or the same amount. Fairness means that you don't treat people differently because they're different. Another principle that's important is always try to learn as much as you can. Sometimes I think we call this in UU circles a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. You can't make good decisions if you don't have knowledge. Before you can decide what action is right or wrong, you have to think about what might happen after you do it. And the final principle that I chose and I thought was relevant is enjoy life. Everyone on this earth, including you, should be allowed to enjoy life. You only go through life once, and instead of doing unpleasant things, try to make life fun for yourself and for others. And so it seems to me that perhaps that's the story for all ages today. We need to think about those things, our principles and the relationship of our principles to how to make good decisions. Well, we can sing our children out because we have one child at the moment who came this week. Go now in peace,
May the Spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
In this congregation, we find it helpful to share the ups and downs of life, and you're invited at this time in the service to come forward if you have a joy or a concern that you would like to voice so that everyone can hear it and participate in it. And we will do so. Tell us your name and take a rock from this pile and drop it into a water chalice, so that symbolically, as we drop our joys and concerns into the chalice, the ripples go out only to the edge of the bowl, but symbolically out into the congregation and into the world.
My name's Paul. I have several joys and concerns. On Friday, we journeyed to the far distant northern city of Brookings and went to the art museum to see the Oscar Howe exhibit. And for those of you who are interested in Indian art, such as our friend Jerry Fogg, the Oscar Howe exhibit is well worth your journey to the north. It is now the time of plenty in the garden, and I have plenty of squash. They're at the back. Please, for the love of God, take a squash. Also a cucumber.
Is that a separate stone? Cucumber separate stone? No. Okay, there you go.
Saturday before last, there was a terrible motorcycle accident where a young man was killed who is the grandson of our next door neighbors, and so we're thinking a bit about them. His name was William Holzebus. He was 19 and died tragically in a single motorcycle accident, and so we think perhaps for the moment of the brevity of life and how sometimes people are taken from it unexpectedly, and how this is very difficult.
My name is Charles, and I'm a member here. I know many of you. And this little bronze chip was given to me on Friday. And on the 22nd of July, 1987, I made the decision to quit drinking alcoholic beverages. And so this little chip signifies half my life, 36 years. I'll be 72 on September 11, 1987. During that time, I've done two important things. I've lived with my wife of 41 years, and I've raised a wonderful daughter of 34 years old. And she never saw Dad take a drink of alcohol. And I've seen many young people who grew up in homes where everyone drank alcohol all the time. So I'm grateful, very grateful for whatever principle there is that brought me down this road in half my life. And you can't imagine what I've seen. I've seen joys and sorrows. I've seen wonderful times and terrible times. And one of the wonderful things I did was complete a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing Poetry. And this year, I have finished my third book of poetry, which is called Children of Loving Kindness. And in it, there is no mention of alcohol or mental illness or any infirmity. It is joyous and a celebration of the principles called the precepts in Buddhism. So I hope you keep that in mind, and it will someday, my wife is editing it right now, it someday be available on Amazon. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Janine, and I was very fortunate yesterday to go to my former mother-in-law's 99th birthday. And it was great seeing all the ex-relatives. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to my daughter Brandy, who is 39 today. And on a sadder note, I'll let Alan do this one.
The story was particularly meaningful because our cat named Jackie had that condition, and so she took her last breaths on Monday. And so we're thankful for many years with Jackie.
Hi, I'm Steve. As some of you know, my sister's been staying with us for over a week now. And so far, it's been more joy than concern, so I am very happy about that. We've been kind of practicing a no ask, no tell policy. The other thing, which is more of a concern, last week when I was out of town, well, my sister was at my house, long story, my wife got sick and ended up in the ER with 103-degree temperature. She's home right now with hives everywhere and very, very miserable.
Thank you for all those of you who shared, and I'll put in a final stone for the thoughts and concerns that each of us have in our own hearts, and we've not voiced necessarily publicly, but we know that they're there. We'll also spend a few minutes in silence reflecting on what we've heard. Let us now move on and sing another hymn from our grey hymnal, number 350. The ceaseless flow of endless time, the moment I will think of past without regret, nor future with dismay. The present slips into the past, and dream like melts away. The breaking It's interesting to remember our aspirations for the new year in the middle of the year. Okay. The second reading is number 637. It's called A Litany of Atonement. And this is one where I will also read the bold letters, and if you will respond with the italicized. A litany of atonement for remaining silent when a single voice would make a difference. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others. We forgive ourselves. For the selfishness which sets us apart and alone. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. For losing sight of our unity. Again in love. For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness. We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again. I'm going to ask Joe Kirby to come forward to speak to us. And in my introduction of Joe, you will recall that I said he had taken an interest in trying to further better political solutions for our community. And I think that's, even though he's going to talk particularly about primaries, there are other things that I think he is also interested in that will help our community politically. So, Joe.
Thank you, Peter. I'm happy to be here to be able to talk to you about a passion of mine, which is making things better here in our city or in our state. Back in the 1990s, I got frustrated with city government, which was dysfunctional in Sioux Falls. It couldn't speak with one mind, with one voice to provide community leadership. We saw an important downtown development go by the wayside because City Hall couldn't support it. We were going to have a convention center and hotel development down there. And again, there was not city leadership. So in 1992, I drafted our city charter and got together a group. I was involved in the Chamber of Commerce back then, and got together a group of business leaders, labor leaders, teachers, women's groups, League of Women Voters. Everybody we could, we got together and drafted the existing form of government we have today, which has been a remarkable success and has led to some of the wonderful things that have happened in our city. So that got me addicted to the idea of, it's not so hard to really make a difference in our community, to make things better. And so ever since then, that's been a passion of mine. How do I make things better in Sioux Falls or in South Dakota or wherever it is I am at the time? We lived in California for a while, so done some things out there as well. So I'm here today to talk about a better way of electing our representatives and our leaders. First, I start with the premise that South Dakota elections are unfair and uncompetitive. We have a system that was evolved back in the right around 1900, maybe a decade before that. My great-grandfather's generation evolved a system of partisan primary elections to pick the top two people that would then go into the general election, and as long as the parties are somewhat equal, the system worked pretty well. That worked well until the world changed. When the internet came along, and then 24/7 news and social media, politics didn't happen over there behind closed doors. It now happened right in front of us. We saw it. And the result has been that we get more and more divided. We know too much about what's going on, and we all are taking sides. So given this new reality, there are better ways to elect your leaders, to make sure everybody's involved, to make sure we have true democracy. And why do I say it's unfair? Well, I say it's unfair, our election system today, because over half of South Dakotans have no real voice in electing their representatives. Over half of us, and I'm a conservative Republican, but I don't like the way my side is favored, and I know it doesn't work out well. My conservative values are violated every day by what I see happen in Pierre, South Dakota, or in Washington, D.C. It's not my kind of Republican anymore. It's something different that I'd like to see changed. But over half of South Dakotans don't get a meaningful vote in selecting who's going to go to Congress, who's going to go to Pierre. Just a little over half of us are either independent, unaffiliated voters, or Democrats. Uncompetitive, I say uncompetitive because there are 35 South Dakota senators in Pierre. In this last election, 21 of them did not have an opponent. There's no competition. Whoever my party picks to go to Pierre, they go to Pierre without any voice from the majority of us. I'd like to see our elections be competitive and fair. Let everybody have an equal voice. Whatever party you are in or aren't in, you shouldn't have to pick a party to have a meaningful voice. The current system. The current system is, as we all know, if we pay any attention to politics, which a lot of smart people don't, the current system is a June primary where the Republicans have a primary and the Democrats have a primary. Many times the Democrats don't bother because there's not somebody that wants to run, because they know that the only meaningful election in South Dakota is the Republican primary. Whoever wins there advances. And who votes in the Republican primary? Well, more and more, it's become only the most partisan Republicans bother to vote in the primary. So we are getting further and further right, further to the right of South Dakota values, of even Republican values in our state. That's the current system. The state pays for the two parties to have a private, exclusive primary election. What we're advocating is what's worked in a number of other states, and actually in one form or another is in about half the states, a more open primary. We'd have a South Dakota primary election. Everybody who wants to run for an office, let's say governor, everybody who wants to run for an office would run in the same primary. So there might be 3 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and a Libertarian, maybe even an independent running for governor. Everybody would vote. We'd all get the same ballot. And the top 2, the people that get the top 2 vote getters would advance to the general election in November. It could be a Democrat and a Libertarian. It could be 2 Republicans, whatever. It's the 2 people that appealed to the most voters. This would change so much in politics. You now have politicians motivated not to just worry about the most partisan people in their primary or in their party. They'd have to worry about what the rest of us think, what everybody thinks. They'd have to appeal to all South Dakotans. Just a better system all the way around. And again, The current system is not called for in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, or anywhere. It just evolved over time as a convenient system in a different era that no longer exists, and it doesn't work anymore. Open primaries in other areas. The system we're proposing is what's called a top two primary election. It is as I described it. Everybody'd run, I should describe a little bit the legislative offices too, because in a legislative district, we have 35 districts in the state, you have one senator running, so they're everybody wanting to be a senator from your district would run against each other. In the case of representatives, though, there's two elected, so we'd have the top four people in the primary would advance to the general election, if there are four people that want to be representative, and there'd be two winners in that district in November. But open primaries elsewhere. Washington was the first state to adopt exactly the system we're talking about, the top two primary election. California adopted it a couple years later in 2010. That's where we saw it in action. It's worked out there to temper the craziness of the left, just as I hope it would work to temper the craziness of the right here in South Dakota. So that's what we see. California does a lot of weird things based on my South Dakota values, but it reflects what the voters want out there. The craziness you see coming out of there is what the people's wishes are, and it's a good system for giving the people what they want. Our timing is good. South Dakota Republican Party is pretty much imploding in a lot of ways. They lost control of the Watertown Convention in 2022. Again, if you were watching, the sitting Secretary of State did not get renominated. They put in an election denier, and the Lieutenant Governor almost didn't get renominated until Governor Noem came in and said enough is enough, and got her running mate renominated, but that almost happened. So the Republican leaders are quite concerned, but they don't have a good solution. This would solve their problem. So we've got a group. We're trying to spread the word throughout the state, a group that's quite active. We've got followers or devotees or opinion leaders in Rapid City, Sioux Falls. We're working on Brookings. I spoke up there to a group recently, Watertown, Pierre, and trying to spread the word as much as we can throughout the state. In 2023, we need to get 50,000 signatures on ballots, or on petitions, I should say, to put this on the 2024 ballot. So this year, we actually need about $600,000 to put this on the ballot, and that's, we're fundraising and we're trying to gather signatures this year. Next year, we're hoping to have a campaign where we get the word out to everybody in the state about what's going on. The polling we've done shows that about 67% of South Dakotans support open primaries once you explain it to them. And again, most people aren't watching very closely, but to the extent we can get the word out, we think we have a chance of getting this done. So thank you for your time, and thank you for inviting me, Peter.
Joe, there are some petitions if you wish to put your name on a petition, which is, as usual in a petition, you have to be a voter in South Dakota, and you also don't necessarily have to agree with the what you're putting your name to. But if it's something you think it would be democratic and go forward, then this is here for you to sign. And I think it can be witnessed by either me or by Joe, I think, at the moment. I don't know why me, but I picked the petitions up, I guess. So I may be signed for them. Yeah. as they say, an army marches on its stomach. We also say that a church also marches on the contributions of its members. So this is the time when we have an opportunity to give to the church, and also, as has been our practice, half of the loose offering on a Sunday goes to a cause, and the cause for this month is Banquet West. Let us say the words to receive the offertory, the words are in the order of service. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, and loving one another. Our third hymn is aspirational, number 121, We'll Build a Land. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the toil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come, build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll be a land building up ancient cities, raising up wonders our children from old, restoring words of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from the spirits once joint and once weak, where the oaks of righteousness stand a people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land where sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Our final reading is number 584. This is the one. A network of mutuality. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied to a single garment of destiny.
Justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
There are some things in our social system to which all of us ought to be maladjusted. Hatred, concern, disease of fear, only love can do that. We must evoke all our human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation.
The foundation of such a method is love.
Before it is too late, we must narrow the gaping chasm between our proclamations of peace and our lowly deeds, which precipitate and perpetuate war. One day we must come to see that peace is not merely a distant goal we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal. We must pursue peaceful ends through peaceful means. Stone of hope. May it be so. We're going to extinguish the chalice, but before that, I'm going to invite you all to a discussion with Joe after we've had chance to drink coffee downstairs. And so about 11:15, we'll see if we've got our principles and our rights and wrongs together, and we'll engage in a conversation around today's topic. The chalice is extinguished, but the light goes with us out into the world.
Thank you.